Hello, Somerset County, and welcome to this edition of the Scoop Podcast. My name is Chris Edwards, and I'll be your host for today's edition. Before we get to the contents of our podcast, I want to thank our sponsors. We have Techie Geek, who helped build the podcast studio that we're in today. We also have Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, Somerset, and Unity Bank as some of our foundational sponsors. You'll be hearing more from them throughout this season 2 of the podcast. And pay attention, we have some new advertisers that we're excited to hear, so we're going to be sprinkling them in throughout our podcast coming up. So I want to thank all those companies for their support. Today we have a special edition of our Scoop podcast. Typically when we do our programs, we highlight a particular sector of industry or a particular business. What we're doing today is we want to make our members in the business community aware of 2 new groups that the business partnership is launching this summer, along with some new programming to follow in those groups. And to help me explain the why of why we're putting these groups together, I'm joined today by Amy Shorter, Business Development and Marketing Manager for Norris McLaughlin, amongst many other things at the firm, and Roshani Kumar. Roshani, you've very active with us through leads groups, and I think members would know you who attend a lot of our small business events. You're the founder and CEO of RS Kumar Advisors. So thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So before we get into a little bit both about your background, what I want to do is tell our members that one of the things that the partnership is trying to do is give all of our members, whether they're small, medium, large-sized businesses, not only great networking opportunities and educational opportunities, but specific educational opportunities to the sector or the careers that they're in. So first, with our HR roundtable, obviously we have a lot of small business owners that the CEO, the president is the HR person, and a lot of times that the HR stuff falls to the back burner. So that's a big reason why we're reinvesting back into an HR roundtable. And then almost very similarly, years ago, the partnership had a CEO roundtable, and it's made for businesses, owners of businesses that have 5 or more employees that are looking to kind of have intimate roundtable discussions, free-flowing conversations to help kind of better their business. And these were programs we had in the past that were successful. Pandemic happens, definitely shifting and businesses happen, and we took a step back and we're structuring. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. We're going to go into each group and why, as a business, you should look at having someone participate in both of these groups. Before we do that, Amy, give our audience a little sense of your background and a little bit about the firm as a whole.
Great. So I have been in the public relations world and in the marketing world my entire career. I started out doing more book and movie publicity, moved to the corporate sector in New York City with a staffing company, and then made my way into the franchise world, working on business development. So coming to Norris 4 years ago was a full circle because, like you said, I work on a little bit of everything there. Marketing, business development, a little bit of recruiting side, but mostly trying to work with all of our attorneys on the various practice areas that they're trying to expand their reach to audience-wise. We have a location in New York City. We have a right in the heart of Times Square. We have the location here in Somerset, which that location is our flagship. So we started our roots more than 75 years ago in Somerville and have been a partner in this community ever since. And then we also have an Allentown, Pennsylvania location.
When everyone says Norris McLaughlin, I always make sure to mention that the headquarters is here in Somerset County. I know
Absolutely.
We're not as fancy as Times Square, but the headquarters is right here.
Absolutely. Our headquarters and our largest office where all of our major businesses in IP, HR, business law, all of these various legal professionals are out of the Somerset location.
Awesome. And Roshani, give us a little sense of your background. I know you and I have talked about your business history before you got into business advisory. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that and maybe how you got to where you're at today?
What I like to tell businesses now is I'm helping business owners bring the corporate capabilities to them because small businesses don't have the same
Right.
scale that large corporations do. So now I work with business owners who they have a model, they've built it out, but they just don't have the time to do what they need to do to work on strategy and execution because they're so embedded in it every day.
Yeah, I think for both the CEO and the HR roundtable, my perspective. So the partnership's a very small organization. We have a staff of 7. I have a board of directors as a nonprofit. One of the most eye-opening things for me in my 6 years as president has been, what I saw was the before COVID times, and it seemed like as a business, like you do your strategic plan, every 5 years or so. You kind of do your employee handbook every 5 years or so, and even that, for companies is generous. Now I feel like I'm always in strategic planning. I'm always in updating the handbook. We were just talking the other day about, oh no, we need an AI, clause in the handbook. We don't have that yet. And I think things are moving so quickly that it's so easy to fall behind on training, strategic planning. I mean, HR resources. I feel like most people are in HR, they just learn by fire, right? Like, I wasn't prepared for this situation, right? And I think that's what we hear a lot, as you just mentioned, from our members is they have to react on the fly, and a lot of people in leadership are already so into the day-to-day business that they can't strategically get ahead because they're stuck, with the day-to-day grind. So first, Amy, want to start with the HR roundtable. This is something your firm has been a resource for us for a number of years on, and I think we, again, it was one of those things with pandemic. We went virtual. That worked for a time being. We've tried hybrid. That did not work as well. And I think we you and I talked at the end of last year and we said, hey, this is a need the business community has. This is obviously an expertise Norris has. So can you talk a little bit? Maybe we'll go. We have an event. Our kickoff event is on June 23rd. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the idea from your end of this group and maybe what people can expect if they attend?
Sure. It's super interesting because when I look back on the history of our firm and the relationship with the partnership here, I see that there is programs that were done 20, 30 years plus on HR-related issues.
Yep.
Now more than ever, HR is at the forefront because it is evolving and changing rapidly. You just mentioned AI. A lot of people don't know that AI policies are a standard and need to be in place in your place of business, no matter how large or how small. And we're going on a legal standpoint of seeing that evolution is changing. And with so, your books, your handbooks, your materials need to have a facelift,
right,
and need to embrace those different areas, which you thought, well, as a small business, maybe that doesn't touch me. It's going to touch you. It touches every aspect of that HR side. So we started to evolve our programs as well. We're trying to bring to the chamber, both from a larger and a smaller standpoint, your business owners and your decision makers, a greater understanding of where that's going and how you can support those needs.
Right.
So for us, you have your day-to-day operations that also look a little differently now. And we've kind of been in this whiplash of employment issues where one day we're dealing with a set of issues that are standard or procedure, and then the next thing we know, it's thrown out the window, and you're left thinking, well, what does this mean for me as a business? Where should I be? So developing the programs with our attorneys, specifically the first one that we're going to be doing here with the Chamber, is with Maria Goner and David Harmon. They're two of our HR attorneys. They both deal with the legal side from an employee perspective and also an employer perspective.
Right.
And they hope to bring in that conversation and educate people on some of those legal changes that have happened recently and what they should be looking out for and how their materials and how their best practices should look.
Welcome, this is Kevin from Printing and Promos Plus. Need print solutions that deliver? From business cards to banners, custom apparel, and promotional products, we have it all to make your business stand out. Contact Kevin at printingandpromosplus.com.
No, I think there's a number of different reasons why to attend. I mean, obviously there's SHRM credits attached to this, which is a big plus. I think being able to pick the brain of experts. I always say whether it's a 5-day conference or a 1-hour program that the chamber's holding, if you can walk away with 2 or 3 key items, that's extremely valuable for that hour or 2 hours of time. When you have people who are experts and they're in it day to day, right? And especially when there's someone who's, is an attorney who's kind of been on all these sides of these issues, that's extremely helpful for a company. I think that's, I always see the lines to your attorneys after the meeting, right? When they're trying to get a little bit more out of them afterwards, and you can tell how important those connections are. So that's on June 23rd at your office in Bridgewater. So you get to come to Norris's office, see the headquarters, and they have a very nice conference room, which we've used many, many times. So we appreciate you hosting us. I want to put that out there because I think a lot of people always think everything we do now is at the hub. So we want to make sure we let people know it's at Norris.
We always welcome the chamber to come and do programs at our office. And quite frankly, what better place to get some education and some homework on what you need to do for your businesses than our location.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'll put a little plug in there.
Hey, absolutely. That's what we're here for. That's the reason. Roshani, I think, we're the plan, the bigger picture plan is to relaunch a CEO roundtable later on this summer. I know we haven't finalized a date at the time of this recording. We're probably looking, probably later in July or August. But we thought, you and I came together a few months ago and said, what we really need to do is put together a workshop that kind of set the stage for what a CEO roundtable might look like. So I went through the back end process. I know that's something that might be a part of the workshop. So can you talk a little bit about when the workshop is and then what people can expect for attending that event?
We do have a workshop planned the morning of June 30th. I believe it's a Tuesday. And so that workshop will be a working session. Like you said, businesses are overwhelmed today. There's so much going at it, and even from an HR perspective, there's planning all day, every day. And so from a business perspective, business owners are working harder than their results justify. And in that workshop, we will walk through what it looks like to be planning on a day-to-day basis. We'll do a live diagnostics so that they can actually take away their top 2 to 3 opportunities and figure out what steps they need to take immediately.
Yeah, I think that, the closest comp we have at the partnership right now is we have a very strong nonprofit roundtable, and we've done some offshoots of that group just specifically for executive directors and or like board chairs. And that has been, you kind of, sometimes I always worry just as the planner in me of like, ooh, we're going into these events without really, 60 minutes of programming. Like, what are we going to do? But it's amazing to me, obviously you need a couple icebreakers in the beginning, right, to get people to open up and stuff. But once that conversation flows, CEO to CEO, peer to peer, and sometimes it's even like competitor to competitor, right? Like no one's going to these events and opening up their books or talking about the potential client they have next. But it's the bigger picture items where it's like, I'm having a situation X. Does anyone and people? Oh, I've been through that 2 years ago, and here's something I did. And the hope, especially with the CEO roundtable, is if you get a consistent group of people who come often, you're building a rapport with these folks, and it almost through time doesn't even come off as like a chamber event or a meeting. It's just part of the business operation, right? This is what I'm doing to improve the business. And I can tell you both. I mean, that's the thing I see all the time here at the partnership is, we have nearly 1,000 members. We try the best we can, especially when companies join us, to onboard them and kind of figure out what their issues are. And so many revolve around what we've just talked about today. And the hardest question is, can they get out for a few hours and kind of see if these groups make sense? So my final note for people who are listening, I know a lot of our listeners are ones who don't have the ability to attend events. Reach out to me. I can connect you with either Amy or Roshani here today. If you want to talk to them a little bit more privately about the group. I know a lot of these sessions, you might have a specific issue within your company, you might be thinking about, and maybe they could talk to you beforehand to see if it's something that makes sense. We'll be, when this goes to air, there'll be a lot of information in our promotional materials about these two programs. So if you have any questions about the programs, reach out to our staff. Roshani, Amy, thank you so much for joining us and giving our members a little peek behind the curtain about what we have going on. And until we upload again.
Like, all right.
Do you have a time on that?